Hi, Chris. Welcome to the PowerTalk Show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining us today. Before we dive into a conversation, can you tell us a bit about your professional background and what led to the creation of iExcel?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Naveen. My name is Chris Rodriguez. I'm the CEO and founder of a digital marketing agency called iExcel. The letter I, the word Excel, EXCEL not .com. We are based out of the DC, Virginia area. They call it the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. I am a native New Yorker, so call me a transplant, but I've been in this DC market for a decade and have cut my teeth in all things New York City. So Northeast US based digital marketing agency. And more specifically, with a bit of a focus on B2B startup SaaS type companies, but certainly not limited to that. I've been slowly but surely growing a humble, bootstrapped digital marketing agency, and we are continuing to hit milestones and grow slowly but surely.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for sharing that wonderful background with us. How is the current marketing and branding trend evolving for B2B industry, especially with AI and so many platforms coming into?
Sure. Well, I think one of the most important things to understand is as much as things can change, often most of the important things stay the same. And so the methodology of understanding exact ICP, ideal customer persona, building audiences, targeting those audiences through digital marketing channels, none of that has changed. It's more so the perhaps tool or efficiency of process of those same steps. So as much as we are, like everyone, incorporating AI into our day to day, at the end of the day, there's still strategy involved in finding the right audience. There's still research involved, though perhaps enhanced with automation and AI. There's still research needed to be personalized. You know, and I just try to make the complex into a simple mindset and just use the tools not as, let's say, an intimidation or an existential threat, but more so an empowered additional tool in the toolkit.
Absolutely. I believe the framework to a certain extent is the same. So, many in the branding and marketing world are talking about generative engine optimization. How do you look at it? Is it really important for a brand to be present where, the most amount of searches in the AI platforms happening?
Well, clearly you want to be everywhere that is meeting where the prospect has their interest or inquiry or demand. So of course, ChatGPT and others went from, experimental tools to now a top 10 referrer in people's Google Analytics. So obviously the next statement is, well, how do I get in there? And as much as I will continue the theme of, listen, we're learning as is everyone alongside us because this area is so nascent. There are some best practices already, and it really is simpler than perceived as far as we've seen from a few anecdotal examples, as well as the academic content that's out there, which is to summarize your content as if you were almost reverse engineering what you see from a ChatGPT prompt result. So as ChatGPT, for better or worse, places their answers in headline format with short, choppy paragraphs and bullet points, it behooves you to optimize your content with that same styling or elements of your content with that styling so that, let's say, the ChatGPT interpretation of your content can be easier. Similarly to how a Google bot, if you optimize your content for how Google's bot reads your page, suddenly it finds you friendlier. So it's just a new rule base, and you just need to add that. It's not an or statement here, it's an and statement, which is to say, continue to optimize with the best practices of SEO, but also while you're doing so, make sure to add a few bullet points to summarize your content. Make sure to place a almost executive summary, if applicable, at the top. Make sure to place frequently asked questions, if appropriate, at the bottom. And it's really more of a styling thing than it is something more complex than that. So as you might imagine, I tend to try to take concepts that are sometimes scary or intimidating or feel like they should be complex and really simplify it down to the one or two things that really matter.
Absolutely makes sense. And Chris, you are into a lead generation and demand generation space as well. I came across a post on LinkedIn yesterday where it said every unanswered call is a lead lost. And now we have voice AI coming into play, where if you somebody, a lead or a prospect gives you a call, and if it drives into no answer, there will be a AI generated message, that kind of an IVR, which will help you get to the right person, or maybe send an email, submit your inquiry. And I have seen this same in the case where there are AI generated sales call happening. How do you look at it? There are people are calling on an automated AI space where you have an IVR kind of a bot answering your call. How does that work?
Well, we are currently in the AI day where, and it will only get worse, you're not even sure who you're talking to anymore. Commenters are intended to be trolls and write contrarian posts, new accounts. Sometimes bots are talking to bots. So I hesitate to encourage efficiency for the sake of efficiency to the detriment of the human touch, the human element, the human component. Of course, I'm not trying to sound too old school, like I'm anti-AI. I'm absolutely not. AI has changed our workflow and our process. But there are certain, I guess, stylistic choices that a business would need to make. And if I am tasked with choosing someone on the front lines of a reception, and it's either an automated version or a human version, maybe I want to automate a step before the step to qualify the people who even reach the phone call aspect, to then put a human touch to the phone call aspect. I don't want to butcher the analogy, but I often tend to think about when Jeff Bezos continued to highlight the idea of what matters is the customer experience. What matters is the customer experience. And though the details are different here, the premise is sort of what I'm touching on. If I think I'm getting a rapid response and really it's just an AI bot, and I've said a human sentence 3 or 4 times, but I keep receiving automated incorrect responses, my experience of your brand is negative. And you might not see that or feel that unless you're looking at a hot jar session to understand that I had a rage click, for an example. So I try to walk the fine line, I think is how I'd like that to be heard.
Absolutely. I am in agreement to you. You said something about the branches and the engagement, step one, step two. And you see there's been a lot of adoption to cadence-based platforms provide you step-by-step activities, engagement, how to reach on to your prospects. Some say cold calling is dead, some say cold emailing is dead, but it works for some. What is your take? How many touch points do you see when you actually reach out to your ideal target audience?
So we are big fans of multi-touch with a LinkedIn focus. So there are pros and cons to utilizing LinkedIn as a brand, and you're not really able to get the same benefits from your LinkedIn brand page as you are from your LinkedIn personal profile. And so knowing that, you need to make a strategic choice to be an individual human voice to find success on LinkedIn, as opposed to the traditional social media scheduling of posts on your page. That's not to say you shouldn't do that, but the real value lies in sort of LinkedIn DMs, LinkedIn friend requests. Have often found, from a personal standpoint, LinkedIn as a profile changed my life and my career. And part of it is, for me, what I still find is effective for cold outreach, which is you're no longer leading with just your visuals, right? You might be of a certain height or of a certain gender, and none of that really matters when you lead with your resume. And your resume shows your track record, your mutual connections, your years of pedigree. And there's just something undeniable to that, no matter who you are and where you come from and what your stature and your state. So utilizing that with B2B automation or B2B tactics is a nice overlap that I find when using tools like Lemlist. You can automate the right prospects. We've also historically used a tool called Meet Alfred. There's also a tool called Walaxy with 2 A's, WAALAXY. These tools are essentially thinking multi-touch, cold email plus social media prospecting. I believe in these tools. It is a little bit of what we would call gray hat marketing. I do find it interesting that these platforms, the LinkedIns, the Twitters or X's of the world, they see all of your usage and they could easily shut you down in 5 seconds, but they have clearly chosen not to. probably because in their own back channels analyses, these tools benefit them maybe just as much as they hurt them, so they allow it. But the fact is, as long as you are cautious, I think these tools are probably one of the more effective channels in digital marketing still.
Thank you so much for sharing such platforms with us, Chris. I want to talk about iExcel a bit, Chris. What kind of clients do you work with, and what sort of challenges do you see your brands are facing right
Sure. Well, if you would have asked me that question maybe 2 years ago, I would have said we are exclusively a B2B SaaS digital marketing agency. Since that time, some of our biggest case studies and biggest logos are neither B2B nor SaaS. So, with that, we have learned to treat each opportunity as a puzzle to solve. We are passionate about digital marketing funnels. We're passionate about hearing people who, I would argue, it's almost like a doctor who is so proud of his or her craft that they want to help people genuinely and they want to hear the problem and diagnose the problem to present solutions and within reason have a little bit of a testing infrastructure to deduce in an emotionless way what is working and what isn't. That is how we approach our digital marketing. Companies that seek us out may not necessarily know that that's what we represent as a differentiator on the market, but those that stay with us learn that that's how we operate and have determined that they prefer that experience to what I call a little bit of turn and burn and just, I'll see you next week. Here's my update kind of energy. We are immersive. We are white glove. We are straight shooters. We don't lead with ego if we have ideas and for some reason they are proven wrong. We don't lead with ego if they're proven right either. So, it's a certain type of experience that we represent. The iExcel, I realize it, if said a certain way, can sound like I or people on my team are saying, iExcel, I'm awesome. And sure, we might be awesome, but this is really more about a self-awareness and a pride for one's craft. We are very proud of putting our minds and our energies towards other people's problems and helping them solve them. So that's really what we represent. Expertise meets a certain type of energy, I would say.
That's wonderful, Chris. Chris, do you mind sharing with us one of your success story, your client success story? Like, a client was doing X and then when it tied up with you, it went to 3X or 2X.
Sure. So this is a fun story and I'll try to make it short. So one of iExcel's very first B2B SaaS clients was a legal technology company. And interestingly enough, my personal background had some roots in legal technology. And so the combination of awareness of the market, awareness of the tactics that would work, awareness of the ICP, combined with, at the time, a focus on LinkedIn advertising, concurrent with cold email outreach and really a strong alignment with the sales department, both digitally as well as just offline and prioritization wise, led to a tremendously efficient funnel that converted decision makers in the legal technology space at very low prospecting costs. I want to say on average $30 per lead acquisition, depending on the piece of content, followed by tremendous synchronicity with sales, be it sequence writing, HubSpot automation, email experience concurrent to the sales experience. It was just a well-oiled machine. And that funnel is now 5 years old, and the exact details of that built funnel still exist today and are still running with the same efficiency. That's how strong that machine was. And I would say I and my company are very proud of, sure, that story, but the idea that we can build infrastructure that is repeatable, that stands the test of time. And even if we are no longer running said machinery, said, funnel, it's something that we can be proud of. And we continue to try to think that way as we work with various companies. We want to make sure that we've left real business impact, and that's what's most important to us.
That's amazing. Chris, how would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership strength. Well, first, I will say that I am still learning and growing as a leader. The thing that I feel I can best tap into is perseverance. I really think I have the patience for the long term vision while also not getting distracted beyond the short term vision. So a little bit of perseverance, a little bit of focus. And I am, though still evolving, I hope that those that are alongside me and work with me feel that I'm improving in my ability to listen and guide as opposed to tell and do. I find that as the evolution of anyone who has ever been a solo executor, someone who is wearing all the hats, and then that situation, say, evolves beyond them, which is where iExcel is today. I have to fight against my instincts to want to solve the problem or to maybe question a process because maybe I would have thought differently and instead focus more so on the empowerment of the people that I have brought on and that I trust to accomplish the goals that we've set forth. It's a little bit of a maturation. I'm still figuring it out, but I do think that I have my eyes and my heart in the right place. So one step
Absolutely.
at a time.
Absolutely. What one lesson did you learn that changed your perspective professionally and personally?
One of the most important cliches that I have learned over the last few years is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this is sort of expanding on what I was just touching on. There's strength in numbers, there's strength in a group intelligence as opposed to an individual intelligence. There's power in that. So the best leaders learn the lessons that reinforce that, or in the opposite direction, maybe mistakes made or approaches taken that had the opposite result are in fact lessons. Like, I can probably think of more than on one hand over the last few years, but it makes me stronger, and hopefully it makes the team and the culture stronger.
Absolutely. And that's some great piece of advice, Chris. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us today. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Naveen, and reach out anytime.